Diana, Princess of Wales, has inspired us to examine her enduring influence on fashion, culture, and Buckingham Palace itself with every passing anniversary. But what part did the 1983 Royal Tour of New Zealand play in her legacy? The newlyweds' visit to Aotearoa on April 17, 1983, with Prince Charles accompanying them, was expected to be routine business. However, Diana's one and only trip there would influence the royal family for a generation. Diana would tell royal biographer Andrew Morton that she was a different person when she got back to England. Diana was altered, though, not by the hundreds and thousands of handshakes or the flashing camera lights. Rather, it was the realization of her star power that established the young royal as a formidable presence in Buckingham Palace. At this point, the royal celebrity era had begun, so the tour was already unlike any other Windsor excursion. It was planned with military precision, with each day jam-packed with processions, polo matches, pawiri, and photo calls. The journey served as both the couple's first official outing and a chance for 21-year-old Diana to leave the familial fishbowl. Collectively, they embodied the new breed of royals, one that followed unconventional paths. The journey was noteworthy as a turning point in the couple's marriage and the royal family's history, indicating Diana's steeliness as she defied royal convention and refused to leave William, then 10 months old, in England. This would result in what is maybe the most famous photo from the tour: Diana, Charles, and William on the lawns of Government House, Auckland, playing with a buzzy bee toy. Diana was the focus of the media at the time of their recent marriage, and Charles said as much in his address at Government House that no one could defeat a phalanx of photographers the way his wife did. Diana, the most pleasant and photogenic of all the royals, generated what royal biographer and critic Tina Brown famously called a bubble bath of national goodwill with her public appearances. Even though the bath may have drained since then, Diana's attraction and lightning-in-a-bottle charisma were effective. A Melbourne Herald cartoon featured an enormous heart imprinted on an Australian map with the caption, "Princess Diana, an everlasting impression." Critics of the tour pointed out that protester Dunmi Haka mooned Lady Diana as they landed at the Paraparaumu airfield, and as the couple arrived at the Royal Gala, a dab of red paint was flung into their Rolls-Royce's windscreen. Brown and Horton, among other biographers, point out that Windsor's limited perspective misinterpreted Diana's broad appeal. Diana was unable to win in a way because, as Charles quipped in his remarks in New Zealand, Buckingham Palace was furious that she had outshined the prince at every function. The media spotlight sparked a great deal of jealousy. That led to a tremendous deal of complex issues, Diana stated in a 1995 BBC interview. The optics of the royal tour are clear-cut and uncomplicated at first glance. However, the journey was driven by a single goal for Buckingham Palace. They had to convince Prime Minister Bob Hawke and the increasingly conservative Australian government that the crown was still relevant. Hawke had already replaced God Save the Queen as the national anthem with Advance Australia Fair a few weeks before to the tour. Given Diana's youth and seeming timidity, the Queen is terribly worried before the tour, according to Press Association royal writer Grania Forbes, who reported at the time of the mission. It was a significant one, and the palace was anxious. However, Diana's enduring charm played a significant role in the case for the monarchy. As New Zealand High Commissioner Sir Richard Stratton stated in a letter to the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, Princess Diana's close and homely, in the best English sense, gestures towards children and Prince Charles's witty speeches won particular acclaim. Wagging to throngs of admirers and basking in their growing fame, Diana and Charles traveled to Auckland, Wellington, Wanganui, Masterton, Christchurch, and Gisborne. Their time in New Zealand consisted of a gala ballet at St. James, a showing of Funky Town at Eden Park, a visit to Wanganui Collegiate hosted by Prime Minister Robert Muldoon, and a visit to Prince Edward during his gap year. They left the country 2 weeks later. They arrived in Auckland on April 17, 1983. The latter event proved to be a media lightning rod, with anti-monarchy protesters drawing police officers into a tug-of-war, Charles praising the New Zealand government's backing of the Falklands, and an unusually gregarious Muldoon walking schoolgirls down Lambton Quay wearing flowers. Diana is genuinely touched by the pawiri, unlike in the episode of The Crown, where the program depicts the Maori performance as a confusing scene meant to represent Diana's inner anguish and confusion. In comparison, Prince Charles appears to be more at ease in similar situations. During his visit to his younger brother Prince Edward, who was spending his gap year at Wanganui Collegiate, the young prince was wearing a Maori cloak, which reportedly led Charles to ask, "What on earth are you wearing?" The world lost Diana, Princess of Wales, sometimes known as the People's Princess, 25 years ago. The vacation is bittersweet because of what it leaves out and what the newlywed couple is unaware of. That few decades later, their specific interpretation of the British monarchy would become antiquated, and that the young royals would be making news for less fortunate reasons. In a career marred by transgressions, Diana's disobedience during the royal tour paved the way for a new generation that was free to define their own standards. Stay tuned for more interesting facts